Okay, so now let's get started doing part two of this bass bug. And, we did the tail earlier, so I've got a tail here that I tied earlier. Now, one of the things about, let's come back to the tail for just a minute. One of the things about the tail is, if you remember, I put some Dave's Flexament down in here on the thread wraps. And then I wrap my hackle collar through it. One of the things that's going to do is it's going to make the tail just a lot tougher. Going to help make it more durable. But you can't come to these tails and immediately start doing the deer hair work on them, because I'm going to sweep this back. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But I'm going to get all this hackle out of the way to do my deer hair work. And so if I do that and I've got the glue in there, a lot of times the glue will start to grab a hold of these barbules and the collar won't stand back up. And so, you want to give the tails a little bit of time for the glue to cure. So we'll come back to this tail in a moment. And I want to talk hair with you for a minute. One of the hair that I'm going to use in this is going to be, I want it to have a really nice bright white belly. And if you want that, you have to use deer belly hair. Whitetail belly hair is already white. And so when you dye it different colors, the colors become really vibrant. With the flank hair, about the whitest you get is this is bleached, a piece of bleached spinning hair, which is a really nice color. I mean, I use it for the bellies on mice patterns and on frog patterns and all kinds of stuff. It's a nice color and it's real usable, but it's just not that really bright white color that I want on this particular color combination. So I'm going to use the belly hair. Also, my gray, now I could use standard spinning hair, but this is belly, so this is a nice gray. That'll be my spots. You'll see how I do that. But when it comes to the collar, some colors don't matter. And red is one of those colors. Red flank hair and red belly hair. The red belly hair is a little bit brighter red, but it's not so much that I decide to use it as opposed to flank hair. And one of the reasons I'm using flank hair for this is you can see the tips are a lot nicer. I'm going to do a diving collar. I'm going to do a Dalberg style diver in this video. I'm going to show you how to put through the hair work with it. And so I am going to use the tips as a collar. I'll stack them and put them in as a collar. And anytime you're doing a collar, the flank here tends to be better because it's got better tips. If you look at the tips on this hair, you'll notice sometimes they can kind of straggly and stuff. And they just don't form quite as nice a tip as you want. I will say this about belly hair. Finding belly hair, this is a pretty good piece right here. Finding belly hair that's fairly long sometimes can be challenging. And so I don't tend to tie really this number 2. The hook on this is an 8089, Temco 8089 number 2. And it's probably about the biggest bug I would tie with belly hair, just because of the length of the hair. I probably wouldn't go a whole lot bigger than that with them. So anyway, that's the hair, the difference between belly and flank hair. So let's put this hook back in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Okay, I'm going to come in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep this collar back, and come in and grab the barbules with some thread wraps. Now, this is a temporary thing. I'm not going to leave these in here. When I get to the end, I'm going to cut them out. But I'm going to just wrap a thread wrap here. And then I'll just put a whip finish on it and cut it. Okay, so there's the way I prep out my hook to do my deer hair head. So let's stop there, and I'll readjust, and we'll come back in and we'll look at how we put the hair on. Okay, so got the tail tied, I've pulled back my feather, my collar, my hackle collar, got everything out of the way, and so now I'm ready to come in here and start my hair work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch threads. I'm going to a gel spun style thread. This one is this is actually a Semperfi nano silk, but I also use GSP gel spun, UTC gel spun GSP thread. I think 100, if you can find 130, I like the 130 for these bass bugs. But anyway, one of the things about this thread is it's very slippery. When you put it on, you can see it's very slippery. It doesn't adhere to the hook shank, so you got to pair it up with some Zap-A-Gap. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just put a little bit of Zap-A-Gap right on those thread wraps there from the tail. And then I'll get my gel spun thread here and I will wrap back through that to the back there, cut it. And now I've got it, it's good and solid on the hook shank. So now I'm going to come and I'm just going to wrap the hook shank. Couple reasons. I think the hair is a little bit easier to control on a wrapped shank. Also, I'm going to add a little glue to the base of the thread, to the hair bundles, just to kind of make the fly a little bit tougher. I don't use too much glue on these. I don't want to lose the soft nature of the hair. But I'll add a little bit of glue so the thread wraps will help wick that back underneath, I think. And then the other thing too is as I pack my hair, as I spin and pack my hair, and I pack it, the thread base will slide with the bundle and it'll help to compress the bundles of hair. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So let's go, we're going to do our belly. Our belly is going to be white on this pattern. So let me come in here, and one of the things you always do with deer hair is you always take a little comb and you comb out the underfur, okay? Now, all the deer have an underfur, and you can see I got pulled some deer hair too, but there's some little fine fibers in there that you can see, hopefully, that I'm getting rid of as well. And you don't want those fine fibers in a fly that's going to float because they'll soak up water. So now I'm going to take my stacking tool. This is a really big stacker made by Peak. You want a pretty good size stacker, whichever one you choose. And come in here and I'll tap that. And come in, and I've got it fairly well. That's not too bad. I'm going to trim the butts out just to make the fly a little neater. Now here's what I'm going to do. And this is the move, by the way. If you can master this move, you can tie stacked deer hair bass bugs. I'm going to first measure my tips back to about the bend of the hook. That's about how big I want that tail. Now I'm going to take this, the bundle, I'm going to drop it sort of at a 45. I'm going to take and do 3 wraps on it. Okay. And notice that it's just beginning to want to flare. It's just right there. The tension is just right there where it's almost ready to flare, but I'm not really letting it flare yet. Then I'm going to rotate it to the bottom of the hook shank like that. And notice that none of the hair is moving out. Now I'm going to put my thumb on it. I'm going to flare right on the bottom. And if you do that correctly, you should have a hook shank that's open on the top. Okay? And that is the move. That's a thread tension move, a thread control move. That's the one that you need to kind of master to be able to do these stacked deer hair flies. Okay. Now this is going to have a red collar on it, so I'm going to come in and get some of my red. This is my flank hair, so you can see the tips are in pretty good shape here. I'm going to stack this. But before I stack it, I'm going to put a little Fly-Rite cement in here. And this, by the way, all these techniques, the glue, the cements, all that stuff is in my first book, Tying and Fishing Deer Hair Flies. So there's nothing really new here happening compared to the book. So now I'm going to take this stacked hair, and so it's going to go back to about there. I'm going to come out here trim it out to about there. Now I'm going to lay it in. So again, the tips come to about the back of the bend of the hook. Come in here, and I'm going to get 3 wraps, and where I'm going with these wraps is right between, it's in the same plane that the wraps on the white hair were at. And one of the nice things about this, doing this, is you can see where that's going to be because it's the separation between the butts and the tips. And then I'm just going to kind of hold this in place and flare it like that. Okay, now this is going to be a diving collar that's going to go across the fly. And I don't have enough hair in here yet. So again, I kind of see that separation right there. I'm going to come and I'm going to get another bundle of hair. Okay, about that size there. We'll stack it. I combed out the underfur. We're going to stack it. So I'm going to take that hair, I'm going to put it on this side of the hook shank, on the far side, or to you, the near side, of the bundle of red that's already there. We'll lay it up against that bundle of red, come through that same area, the same plane, get 2 wraps of thread, and then hold it in place and flare it. Now I'm going to do another bunch, and I want to keep it as close to the same size as the bunch I put on that side as possible. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to stack it. Again, I'll come in here, match the tips up. Now I'm putting it right up against the red hair on my side of the hook shank. Come in here and flare it. And so now you can see I've got hair going all the way around. Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to push this back, push the white down, push the red back, and draw it all back. Now here's another move. That's an important move. It's easy for the thread to capture some hair and fold it over. If you go when you start trimming your bug and you find folded over hairs, one of the things that can happen is maybe you didn't quite get the thread wraps in the same plane as you were stacking. The other thing is maybe you brought the thread up and it was too loose and it caught some hair as you were bringing it forward. Because remember, all these thread wraps have gone through the same plane. I haven't moved the thread forward at all through the hook yet. So I'm going to pull this back, get some tension on it, and keep some good tight tension on it until I come right up to the hook shank. And then I'm going to put a wrap right in there. Now, I'm using a Bic pen thing for my half hitch tool, and the reason I like this is like big flies, I can go all the way back in here. A lot of the trout ones you can't go back far enough, or they're not big enough opening to go around bigger hook shanks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and put a couple half hitches right up against that stack of hair. Okay, and it's not going to pack. I can't do much packing now because I'm already up against the tail. The next bunch will be able to pack. So now I'm going to come out here, wrap, and notice I'm going to bring my thread out in front 2 or 3 millimeters. Okay, you just want to kind of get it out away from the hair so that you're not catching hair when you wrap it around. Okay, so here's that move again. So now I don't need the tips. So what I'm going to do, I've got the hair here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clip the front and the back like that. So I got even tips on the front and back. But now I'm going to come in here, same thing as before. I'm going to drop it in at a 45, get a couple wraps on it, and then roll it to the bottom and hold it in place and flare it. So again, you can see it went right to the bottom of the hook shank. Let me pull that hair out of the way for you. See, it's right at the bottom of the hook shank. Now I'm going to take a little more. I'm going to change my color pattern. I'm going to start establishing my color pattern a little bit. And you'll see what I'm going to do here with this. I'm going to lay this in here like this. Come up here. And I'm trying to, again, go right through that same plane where the first wraps went through. I don't want to come forward or backward. And I'm going to flare that in place right there. Okay. Then my color pattern is going to be this. Let's pull another fly tied earlier out. If you look, you can see these little gray bars with the black ring around them, and that's what I'm tying. I'm going to tie these little gray bars on top with a little black ring around them. And so I'm going to start with a little bit of black, not very much, keep it small, just a little bit like that. Comb it out. And I'm going to lay it right in there like that and flare it in place. Okay, now if I were to leave that alone, compress it and keep going forward, I'd end up with a little black bar, but I want to create this kind of cool little effect where that will be a black ring surrounding this light gray. And remember when we did the tail, we put that gray pewter in the tails, because so this kind of matches into that, kind of mimics that color pattern a little bit. And so I'm going to come in here, separate that out, put the gray right in the center, come through with 2 wraps, flare it in place, and now I'm going to push it back. Okay, pull all the hair back, come in here, and let's do a couple half hitch tools. Okay, so now I've got those knots in there. I'm going to come in with my packing tool and I'm going to pack that back in. Now let's talk packing a little bit. If you think of deer hair, hopefully you can see my hand here. If you think of deer hair as being, if you look at my thumb, imagine the surface of my knuckle hair is the surface of the hook shank, and these are the hairs going up. You want to push at the surface. If you push on the hair up here like this, you're not going anywhere. You're just pushing the hair back like that. It's not going anywhere. You need to get right down in there at the hook shank, and you want to go down where those knots are, and you want to take that hair and you want to push it back. And you'll see as I push it back, the hair will actually angle forward, kind of a little more accented as now. So I'm going to push. I got a little bit. I didn't get a lot on that one, but I got it started. So I'll keep doing that. So now all we're doing is we're repeating this pattern going forward. That's all I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and let's finish out that part of it. Okay, I just pulled too hard with the thread. So one of the things I like about this thread is that it will cut the deer hair before it will break. So I pulled a little bit too hard there, but no harm done. Let's just come in and do another bundle. I'll be a little more gentle this time. And then to finish this out, I had a little space there, so I'm just going to kind of fill that space with just the white hair. Okay. Okay, so now here's a problem. Notice that if you can look at the hook shank, notice that I've got, ideally you want the eye of the fly to be about the diameter of the hook eye. And this is just a little bit more. So I'm going to show you another little subtle thing here. And this is another one of those things that requires kind of a touch with the thread, understanding thread tensions and stuff. I'm going to take this little bundle of white. I'm going to lay it in here. Instead of rotating it to the bottom, I'm going to actually make it flare around in a circle. So I'm going to take it, and as it starts to flare, as it starts to flare, I'm just going to chase it around with my hook shank, and it rotated about one time. Normally, the bundle of hair, you want it to rotate all the way around and then stop and lock in place. That move is based on keeping consistent thread tension all the way around the hook shank, all the way around. If you keep consistent thread tension as you're distributing that hair around the hook shank, and you keep real consistent tension, the hair should go around and go around evenly and then come to a stop once it fills in all the way around. And that one did. So now I got a more appropriate size here when I pack it for sure. It'll be a more appropriate size for the head of the hook. And I'll come back and put a thread head on this when I'm finished tying it. So come in here, give me my hair packing tool, push it back. There we go. Now that's a lot better. Now, just as I started this thread with Zap-A-Gap, I have to finish it with Zap-A-Gap. So what I'm going to do is you want to apply it to the thread. Don't apply it to the body of the, don't apply it down there where your wraps are going to go, otherwise you'll gunk your fly up. Just apply it to the thread wraps. Then just get in here and wrap that glued thread in place. And now just come in, all you really have to do is throw some half hitches in there. You don't need to do a whip finish or anything, because you're going to come back over this with a finished head anyway, a colored thread head anyway. So now tie it. So there you have it. That's the process of spinning hair on a fly. And you can see the colors. And so the next video, we'll go in, we'll look at how to trim this fly out.